Today, Meta saying they'll begin testing AI-powered ads in Threads, up 2%, a little less now on that news. That stock has tripled in 5 years. It's also set to report next week, along with Apple, Intel, and others. Which of these could get the next AI-fueled boost? Joining us to discuss that, Stefan Slowinski is the global head of software research at BNP Paribas. All right, Stefan, you stick with the obvious. You go for the not-so-obvious, under-the-radar names. Welcome. What do you do?
Yeah, hi, Kelly. Thanks for having me. So, big week coming up next week to focus on fundamentals. I think the big names are still going to be quite dominant. The main one, of course, is going to be Microsoft. So, Meta announced their big CapEx plan for this year, so they stole a little bit of their own thunder from next week. So I think the focus is going to be on Microsoft next week, and especially that Microsoft Azure cloud computing business. Can they guide for acceleration? Will that help continue this AI trade? We think it will.
So, I think a lot of investors in these names are torn between the going, okay, I'm just sticking with the Mag 7. This is the only sure thing in the market, and between thinking, nope, I'm going to get in and it's going to be the peak and I've missed the whole run and it's time to rotate into energy.
Yeah, I think when you look at the larger stocks, the Mag 7, but within that, if you look at Microsoft, you look at Google, you look at Meta, you still have quite reasonable valuations on some of them. And especially on the enterprise side, you could see revenue growth accelerating here. So I mentioned Microsoft with Azure. They should do 32% growth in that fiscal Q2 and maybe guide for 33, 34%. So we're getting that acceleration likely to come through as capacity comes online. You also have Microsoft 365 Copilot, their enterprise product there in the Office suite. Again, feedback's been a bit mixed, but we think they come out with data that show that you may have already sold 10 million seats of Copilot, where, again, that's Gen AI monetization. And I think the interesting and exciting thing, especially for Microsoft, with that Stargate announcement you referred to, we could see CapEx growth really significantly slow.
Right.
So we could be reaching that point on Microsoft where revenue growth is accelerating, CapEx growth is slowing, and investors can get more confident around those returns.
Yeah, no, which, again, might be a really important turning point. So you like Microsoft, Alphabet, Oracle, SAP, all of those names. Who are you underperform on in your space and why?
We're a bit more cautious on Meta, for example. So I think it'll be a more difficult year for Meta. They announced the 60 to 65 billion of CapEx coming this next year. That's a 60% increase at the high end. So we're seeing CapEx really ballooning there. They don't have the monetization mechanisms that a Google, an Amazon, or Microsoft does. So Meta is still 98% reliant on advertising. So they're building out their Llama model. They're building out Meta AI, but the monetization is still uncertain. And then finally, you have revenue growth slowing. So in Q4, maybe 17%, but we could be slowing down into the low teens as we go into 2025. So again, you don't have those reaccelerations of their enterprise cloud computing businesses like you'll see at Google or Amazon. And you also have less events this year that are going to help advertising. So we think the setup's a little bit tricky after a very impressive run over the last few years for Meta. So we are underperform on that one.